you shouldn't really touch science or engineering. That's too tough. It's not really something for female to compete with. However, and when I was in my middle school, I realized that I really love science and that's my passion. Only 3% of the fundings are going to female founders, which is unfair. But they have never seen any role model, especially like a female, like in entrepreneurship, in women's house, even like an Asian female. They just don't say that. It's still a lot of things about, oh, girls should be soft and should be protected. You can do it, not wait for another prince to come to save you. And think of the cost of not doing that and the regret for the entire life. It's much higher cost than just go ahead and do it even if you fail.
Hi, my name is Theo, and this is Mira Talks. Here we have conversations with women who turn personal challenges into industry breakthroughs in health, hormone wellness, and advocacy. This podcast is powered by Mira, the hormone health monitor that helps you understand your body better and make informed, confident decisions about your health and future. Today, I'm speaking with Sylvia Kang, a woman who had to explain basic female anatomy to male investors just to get funding, and who also stood her ground with doctors who claimed that women cannot possibly handle too much data. But Sylvia built a company that gives women exactly that, the clear, reliable data they need to make informed decisions about their own lives. And if you want to know how she did it all, stick with us till the end to find out. Sylvia, how are you?
I'm good. I'm really excited to be here.
Very glad to have you here. And hearing your life story will become the source of inspiration for many of our listeners. I'm sure about that. So in our conversation today, I would love to tell the story of how does one go from studying during early years of her life to become a pianist, to then, going all the way to revolutionize the space of women's health. Because these two stories really sound like they belong to two completely different timelines. They feel so different from each other. So I would like to start our conversation right there, in the early days in China. So could you tell us a little bit more about your childhood? How did it look like? And what was your life trajectory looking like back then?
Yeah, sounds good. So I was born in China, and in China as a young girl at that time, everyone thinks like something like a music or arts will be the good career for female. So you shouldn't really touch science or engineering. That's too tough. It's not really something for female to compete with. So, my family thinks I will become a professional pianist. So I started playing piano when I was 4, and I was practicing like 6 hours to 8 hours every day. However, and when I was in my middle school, I realized that I really love science and that's my passion, but I was already in a conservatory major in piano performance. So in that conservatory, they never offered any science classes. So that means I never studied math, biology, physics, or chemistry for 6 years, between middle school and high school. So, due to my passion, I really had to self-study. So I decided to purchase books, and, textbooks used by other students at that time, and really just trying to do this by myself. So I did that for 6 years, and then, really was the strong determination and the risk-taking. So I also decided to not continue as a concert pianist into a college because that was a natural path. Given I was major in piano performance during high school and middle school and high school, so I pretty much give up on that career. Then I applied to college in the U.S. directly major in engineering, and due to my self-study, I got it in. So that's how I got to change my major.
Wow, it sounds like a huge jump. But if we go for 1 second back in time, like how did one day in the young Sylvia's life look like when you were around the age of, let's say, around the age of 10? How did your life look like back then?
Yeah, so that was actually a really good question. So at the age of 10, I was still in elementary school. So I attended regular elementary school. So I was going to classes during the day, but I had to practice piano for at least like 3 to 4 hours after school. So my mom and my family pretty much want me to focus on piano performance. So they even asked, the teacher to take vacation for me. So like a sick leave whatsoever. So I don't have to go to classes maybe in the afternoon because I have to prepare for this entrance exam for the conservatory for that, middle school. So basically middle school starts at age 12. And I started to prepare for this piano test since I was like a 10 or so on. So I missed so many classes in my elementary school, like, all the regular math class or like science class. I just had to focus on piano performance.
Right. And so it really sounds like you have studied really intensely to become a pianist from such an early age, and yet you became a scientist. These two worlds are so different from one another. Do you feel now, looking back, that there was a common thread, something that maybe you've learned during your years when you prepared to become a pianist that you took later on in your career as a scientist?
Yeah, I think the thing I learned is discipline and the working really hard and never give up. So piano is actually never a relaxing career. So that's totally opposite as my mom and my grandmom think about that. So it's actually require like 8 hours practice every day. And there's so many repetition and so many frustrations too. Like sometimes you just can't make it right. It's about exact precise finger control. So, you can really express the note and the tone at the way you want to be. So to really have that precise control, you have to have so much time to practice that. So, I think that really trained me like my discipline to pursue something, to be really persistent. And also another thing I learned is like since I had to focus on piano, right? But I had this passion about science. So I kind of lack a formal education about, oh, here's a teacher and teach me, oh, here's a curriculum I have to go through. So I really knew how to self-study and what is my goal is and how to pursue my dream by myself, proactively from myself from a really early age. I think that was like a huge plus for my entire life until now. So I know what I want and I can find a way to make it happen. I know where to find the resource. And also I know how to arrange my schedule. So, after the busy schedule of piano performance, I still have time to, learn what I want to learn. So it's really like a self-control of your life and pursue your dream. I have a mechanism to do it.
Well, it sounds that you indeed know now how to make time for the things you care in life. And you know that whenever you want something, it sounds that you know how to go after it and have that relentless drive to go after that what you wish. But I wonder how it was like back in the days when you were still a child. How did you decide that you want to change career paths? How was that moment like for you? And also, how old were you again when you decided that you were not going to pursue this career as a pianist?
I would say about 14 or 15 years old. I think it's not like one moment. It's like a gradual process. It just feels like things are not feeling right. I've been practicing every day, following this curriculum in the conservatory. And I saw everyone around me, like the professor, like the students, they're all trying to go down the same path. I'm not saying piano performance is not good, but I had a really heavy doubt, is that all I'm going to have for my life? Because, in the conservatory, usually the students will graduate and they will become the professor. So basically, have seen their entire life. I've seen how they're now, and when they're like a 30, become some assistant professor, and then when they're like a 60, become a full professor and eventually retire. I've seen the entire trajectory, and they're all about piano performance only. And it's not about anything else. And it's even restricted in that little, like my hometown, where my hometown is. It's in Chengdu, China. So like it's an okay city, but it's like a very limited, just one location. So I was like, it's just really something I'm just going to do for my entire life. And at the same time, because I love science, so I was reading so many scientific books, and I specifically loved theoretical physics, actually. So I look at how big the universe is and the new discovery, and I was trying to read English. My grandfather subscribed the journal called the Scientific American, so that was really inspirational for me. So I look at all this like the world is so big. I really should try something else. If I my friends and families are like, oh, you're not gonna make it because you never studied science classes before, and all these other students they could be competing with you, and you're not gonna win. So I'm like, I never tried it, and how could I know? I'm just gonna lose. If I don't try at all, I'm just gonna lose. So that's what I knew. So I think that's just not correct. I stayed there. So, this is like the feeling is like really cumulative over the time. So when I was like a 17, 16, I'm like, I have to do something else. I really want to do this, science major in my college. I just don't want to continue this path here. But in China, it was really difficult because I never studied these classes. So I was thinking maybe I should go to another country. And obviously, the US is the best country for science research, for engineering development, or so on. So I was trying to apply and then had to learn English from scratch, taking tests. And obviously, I have to, relearn, like self-study all these science classes to make sure I can catch up.
Right. And I would love to hear everything about your experience and how it was when you landed in the US. And I'm sure you came across a lot of challenges, not only while already building Mira, but also before that. But before we move there, I would still love to stay in this space where you're still living in China, where I heard you had a figure in your life that sort of inspired you and encouraged you in this in pursuing this new career path. So you mentioned your grandfather. Could you tell us a little bit more about him and how he influenced your path, the new path that you were going to embark on?
Yeah, sure. So, yes, I live with my grandfather, and he was the first person doing biomedical engineering in China. He graduated from NYU, like from the US as well, many years ago. And then he brought this concept of biomedical engineering into China. And when I was born, and he was also the vice governor for our province. He was like a very scientific guy. He was a professor. He used to be a university president as well. So, although this big environment was like that, I was kind of determined to go to the piano performance career. But he had so many books in our home. Like he had a study. It's probably more than like 2,000, 3,000 books over there. And many of them are about science. So I love reading because I'm the only child. And, if you study piano performance, you just cannot really go out to play with other children every day. So my biggest hobby or best time of my every day is to go to his study and take some book randomly and trying to see what's going on over there. Of course, I'm not going to understand everything, but as I mentioned, it's really eye-opening. So I think the most important thing I learned is like the world is so big. It's not only piano performance. It's not only this conservatory. It's not only that city I was born. So there's so many different interesting things outside over there. And it's possible. It's just exciting. It's like, I'm just curious about that. And, he's a professor, so he also encouraged me to read. So he always thinking reading is like the best way a child could learn. And also he taught me a lot of really good behavior. For example, I mentioned about my schedule management because I had to do homework and especially playing piano, which took like 3 hours every day. So how can I have time to do this thing I want to self-study? And he taught me like everything needs to have a schedule, you need to make a plan. I'm still doing that right now. Like, I think that's exactly, how you can squeeze things into your life. And then, over the time, eventually will make things happen. So, yeah, so he's like it taught me specific thing, and also his resource and his vision and his books knowledge really be eye-opening for me. I think without him, if I was not living with him, I wouldn't be where I am today for sure. I would just be playing
Wow.
piano.
It sounds like you had the right inspiration next to you. I had a grandfather like that, so I can really resonate with what you were saying. But I cannot stop thinking that, well, you said you enjoy reading, right? Like it's one of your
Yes.
hobbies. And I just wonder now, can you still manage to find the time to read nowadays? Because you are managing such a large company like Mira and you're making such great impact. And you're also a mom and you're running, your family chores. So I wonder, can you still make the time to actually indulge in your hobby of reading?
Yes, I still do that. Actually, I do that more than used to be before. And I found a way to do it. As I mentioned, I always have a way to search for the solution and to manage my schedule whatsoever. So now I read about about 120 books per year. I've been doing that for about past 3 to 4 years. And the way I was doing this is I use a lot of audiobooks. So I have a lot of alone time. Like for example, I was driving, I was commuting, I was on the way to pick up my son, or like I was doing hiking, exercising. I also do a lot of exercising every day. So those are times I'm by myself. And then I listen to the audiobooks, and also I subscribe to our library, and which was super helpful. It give you kind of like a deadline, like every time there's the only like a few days and the book gonna be due. So really, push me to find time to read. I still do that. It's my way of relaxation, and also zoom out from what I'm doing every day, and also it's a self check. It's to make sure I'm still on the right track. I'm focusing on the correct thing.
And you said something key right there. It's about making the time, right? Because we have all the time we need to do all our activities. It's about finding the time, having a process in place. Maybe we all need a grandfather like yours to sort of inspire us, so a method to make the time for the things that we
Exactly.
care about in life. And so I hear that your grandfather was a supporter for you, right? But I wonder, how did you explain your decision to leave the career as a pianist? How did you explain this decision even farther than your grandfather to your friends and your family?
Nobody understood. So I explained, but I don't think that was really working. But the good thing, like because of my grandfather and my family was really supportive actually about this decision. So without their support, obviously, going to coming to the U.S. will take money and will take a resource investment or so on. So without their support, it's not gonna happen. But I think everyone like doubts so much about my decision at the time. So I still remember I was trying to consult with someone like older generation, like not my relative, but some other families, friends who used to be very successful in their career. And they're all like, you shouldn't really do this. You shouldn't really do this. Because in China, if you already know piano performance, in our education system, you can kind of already get into the college. You don't need to pass like a super tough college entrance exam. You already have it. And also being a piano teacher in China, like a professor, is really good career. It's good income as well. So all these uncles, aunts, whatsoever, are all thinking about what they're really thinking about. This is like a sad career already good for you. Your mom, your family already planned that for you. Why do you want to give up? Why do you want to start with something, too, like from scratch? It's too risky. It's just not gonna happen. Nobody understood.
Wow, I can imagine. And also you were so young. You're right. You said you were around the age of 16 or 17 when you made a decision that it's not going to be a career as a pianist. And already, from early age, like I feel like we develop these paradigms of that these are the ways of our own thinking, right? They become the containers of what's allowed, what's not allowed, what's good or bad. And these are all influenced by our caretakers, by their own beliefs and values, and also by the community and the cultures and the society that we live in. And sometimes, more often actually, this container can be quite limiting for our own self-development and self-growth and expansion, right? Because it's usually created from their own fears. Because I heard the word fear, you mentioned it a few times. And so I cannot help but wonder, have you ever felt that you disappointed the expectations of the people around you when you made a decision to change your careers?
Yes, so absolutely. So I think the best example is like later, maybe this is like a jumping the gun a little bit. But after I came to the US and I went to Columbia for PhD study for biomedical engineering. That was a fantastic university. But after a couple of years, I realized that I don't want to be a professor. So I think the best way is for me to find a job and then pursue or trying to explore what's in the industry I can do. So with that decision, I think everyone was so disappointed. My professor at that time, I totally understood. And my professor, our chairman at that time, department chairman, and also my mom and grandpa, they were in China at the time. So they called me. They're like, again, what are you thinking about? This is like a best university. It is like a safe career path. You should continue just to do it. So yeah, I feel like Probably at that time, I haven't talked with my family for like a couple months after so. But again, I think as exactly as you said, when you're in your teenage years, like early years, you will form some belief or behavior that will guide your entire life. I think I'm a person that I just knew, how to proactively lead my life, not to follow any path. Because from when I was really young, I had to self study. And then it's not really following any educational system or path or so on. That worked best for me. So I decided just to do it. So I withdrew from Columbia, I found a job. But later, we can talk a little bit in a few minutes. The career changed again. So that turned out to be really good. But yes, people were really disappointed at that time.
It all turned out for the better, I'm sure. Like once,
Yes.
like seeing where Mira is nowadays, and also I'm curious to hear all about the future plans that you have with Mira. But okay, so now you are at the age where you are going to leave China. You are flying to the US. Could you help me paint the picture? How did that feel like? Like you taking the leap of faith and you're flying all across the globe to pursue now your degree, to pursue your dream. How did that feel like?
Yeah, I think that felt really excited, but also really scary. So I was only 18, so I only went abroad to Canada once before with my grandpa, and before I went to the US by myself. I never been to US before. We had a zero relative in the US. We had some family friends, but it's like a super far away, like a friends, that kind of relationship. So there's really nobody can save me. Like if there's something happen, there's nobody can deal with the emergency situation. So that was the case, and I went there. But I feel like I was really kind of my excitement was overriding my fear because I knew right now I got into engineering major. It's not only piano performance anymore, but at the same time, there's a scary feeling about how I'm gonna do over there. What I learned in China, was that really enough? Can I really compete with a kind of life I'm gonna facing? So it's like a mix of a lot of uncertainty about the life, uncertainty about if I can follow the curriculum, can I really be successful there, and also uncertainty about how I'm gonna live by myself. There's no mom anymore. Just some really detailed stuff. No, I knew little about cooking at that time. So how am I gonna eat? Just things like that. I couldn't drive. Where am I gonna buy all this grocery whatsoever? I have to rely on friends in the future who I was not knowing at that time. So a lot of uncertainty, but I don't know. I feel like at that time, I just feel gut feeling was telling me that's the right thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's the fear of unknown, right? It comes with the whole package, and our minds can start creating all of these concepts of what can go wrong. It's where the mind goes first hand. But I wonder if you have any examples where these fears that you were imagining about being in a new country and being alone in a new country, if any of these fears actually came true, because I would love for the listeners to our podcast and our conversation to maybe inspire them a little bit, because we, as I said, like we tend to have these fears that are just mind constructs. But I wonder if there was anything in particular that actually came to be a true experience for you, or
Yes.
was it all in your head, so to speak?
It wasn't in my head. I was only 18 when I was flying from China to the US. So I think the biggest problem, or like some memories can still recall, was that I think the loneliness and the kind of feeling like a helpless. I think that was the biggest problem for me. So it doesn't happen every day, but it will accumulate. Like your stress accumulate. So after I came here, like for example, many new stuff, right? So that's stress, and also have to catch up on the curriculum, have to learn, have to do a lot of, social, like trying to build make new friends. But the English was really it's really theoretical. Like I learned on the book, I can take the test, but I don't know how to speak. I still remember when I just came here and they're asking you, how are you doing? I don't understand what that means, because in China, we only learn how are you. That's a formal, like an official language. If you say, how are you doing? What does that mean? I don't even know. So, so a lot of adjustment. So what the toughest time came when there's a holiday, for example, Thanksgiving. So in my old university, that they will close a dorm in the Thanksgiving. So all the students need to go home, but obviously I cannot go home. So I met a really good professor and she found me an empty house. So basically that, the owner was going for a vacation. So I can live in their house, just watch their house. And I didn't have a car, didn't have anything. So I went to Walmart, they took me to Walmart and I bought like a box of frozen foods I can put in the fridge, and every day I just microwave like a box. Every meal just microwave a
That
box.
sounds like the perfect student meal. I remember those years also during uni time.
Yeah. Yeah, but that was become, after this, all this thing, like it will build something in your mind. So it become, over time, become really stressful. So sometimes when the emotion got to a certain threshold, and I still remember I was just, basically just people just gonna melt down. So, I would start to think about why I'm doing this. It's so lonely here. It's so helpless here. So, no friends and everything's tough. And if I couldn't even think about my mom and the grandpa. If I think about them, I feel like I'm gonna cry. Seriously, that feeling like when you're far away from home and you're facing all these challenges nobody understood. You don't have anyone to talk with. Every day there's something new, some new challenge there, something new scary will happen. And you think about, oh, now there's a sweet home and back home, and mom and the grandpa always said, I will help you on everything. I will support you on everything. You have that feeling. So especially during
And
holiday time,
I think
it's really
also
tough.
it's important to mention that during those years, just to also paint the full picture, it wasn't like we had access to like FaceTime and WhatsApp and all of these
No.
ways of communication as they are nowadays, right? Because
No.
nowadays it's so much easier to be an expat and do your studies abroad, right?
No,
Back then it was way too limited.
no. Yeah, there's no. So you can do phone calls. Only thing you can do for a phone call, but it's super expensive. It's like $1 per minute or something like that. Probably more expensive. And I still remember my grandpa used to mail me letters because he wants to write me something. Talking on the phone is expensive and cannot go that detailed. So he has a schedule. He used to write me every 2 weeks, like a mail letter.
Oh, I can imagine
Mm-hmm.
the anticipation to read all of those letters.
Yes.
I feel nowadays we lost touch with that. I would love to still be sending letters to each other.
Yeah.
Those messages are more personal than FaceTiming
Exactly,
nowadays.
right? And I can save them. I still save. My grandpa has already passed away, and I still save them. I have a box of his letters.
Ah, that's beautiful. That's really beautiful that you're still keeping those.
Yeah.
And I can resonate with your experience because I'm also an expat. I am originally from Romania and I moved to the Netherlands over 10 years ago. But my story was a little bit more peaceful in the sense of how did I navigate loneliness? Because I moved here when my back then boyfriend, now husband, already lived in the Netherlands. And so, although we were not living in the same city, we were still very close by. We were, 1-2 hours a train ride away from each other. So that loneliness, it's not something that I have experienced firsthand, but being away from home for the very first time during my early adult life, it did feel lonely because that connection that you are missing with your loved ones, with your family members, it's something that cannot be replaced by anyone. So in your case, yeah, with your grandpa, with your mom. So I resonate with that pain. I wonder then what gave you the strength to, keep going when everything felt out of place. How did you find that strength?
Yeah, it's pursuing my dream. I think that's really the reason. I don't feel like I have a specific reason, like oh, I just have to keep going, or like this is like why I have to really do it. But I feel like that's just what I should do because I decided, right? So I gave up in piano performance. I came here. I want to do engineering. Here I'm doing engineering. That's great. And also, by the way, I was getting really good grades even from a freshman years. I don't know how that happened, but just my self-study, like with the foundation is based on my self-study. But even with that, because in college you go to calculus directly, which is very different from like algebra whatsoever. Although my algebra background is really weak, but when I go to calculus, I got fantastic grades. I got 4.0. All the students came to ask me about, especially in calculus in math class, like what should they do in the homework. It's really great. There's good things happening. It's not only bad things. So I feel like I'm on the right track. I'm finally making this happen. So I should definitely continue. Of course, there are gonna be tough moments, but tough moments is like a occasionally happen. And after that, I have a way to calm down my emotion and then just keep it going.
Yeah, and all of these tough moments is what made you stronger and what built you into the woman that you are nowadays, the
Exactly.
co-founder and the CEO of Mira and your own
Yeah.
family. I wonder what was that point for you when, like you felt that you really belong there, that this is a place where I want to not only finish maybe my studies, but really focus on my career and maybe build a family in the future.
Yeah, I think it's not one moment. It's like a gradual process too. So every time I achieve something, I feel like I'm more belonging here. And this requirement is going higher and a higher level. So at the beginning, it was more like, let me pass this test when I was in college. So let me get a good grade. Let me graduate. Let me go to a better college, best college. Let me find a job. Let me get a promotion. And then I become a leader. In the business setting, in the career setting, you become a leader. You're really leading people around you. So that's, you have to be part of this, right? Otherwise, how can other people listen to you or follow you? And then I built a company. I got a team and I got all this customer. I feel like I'm really part of the community because everything I'm doing here, everyone around me here, my friends, not just the friends, but my colleague, my team, and my customer, my business partner, and then everyone here is really part of the community. That really built a strong sense of the belonging.
You'd say that community was the the strongest point that kept you where you are. That sense of belonging, right? That only a
Correct.
community can give you.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm really connected with them. I think that's the most important. That's like fundamental feeling behind the belongingness. Like we share the same vision, we see the same pain points. We're really working together, trying to solve the same problem. I really see you, and they really see me too, right? So obviously, our customers love our product, so that's really been a huge acknowledgement for my effort, and I see their pain points too. So that's why I build a product. So those are like where the belonging really came from.
I heard you saying that you build a product. Let's jump to that because I'm curious, how did that come to fruition? So you left China, you moved to the US, you went to study in great schools like Columbia, Cornell afterwards, right? And you've got great accomplishments, beautiful grades. What happened next? And what was that moment when you realized that there was a gap in serving women's health?
Yeah, so that was a time when I was at the company. After Cornell, I went to Corning. So Corning has been a great company for me. So I was a business director over there. So I kind of, in those few years, I learned how to run a business from beginning to end. I was managing the business unit was about $100 million at that time. And then it was like I was about, just past the 30 years old. I saw many friends were trying to conceive. And it was so hard. It was so hard. I was talking with my mom. Mom is like, "Oh, this is so easy. In our age, it just happened naturally. Even giving birth, there's no epidural. Everything's fine." But my friend's situation all different. So they were trying, and there's no results. And they went to see a doctor, and then many of them were diagnosed as unexplained infertility. This is something I learned later. What does unexplained mean? That means they don't know what's wrong with you, but you for sure will have something wrong with you. Basically, it's a general term, and it's not actionable. So when the customer got this diagnosis, they're like, "What should I do? I don't know." So just Google, and then also doctor will tell them, if you're still not successful in the next few months, please go to IVF. And the IVF is like a $30,000 per cycle, and there's only 1/3 of chance to be successful. And it doesn't mention you have to inject your hormone into your body every day. So a lot of pain, a lot of hassle. Well, so if we really have to go down the IVF, that makes sense. But the problem is like we don't even know what's causing this, and the customers doesn't know, and the doctors don't know either. So I'm like, this is totally wrong, right? And maybe there's definitely a market. So let me try to invent something. So that's where things started. We're trying to do a device that has to be consumer device. So we will help the consumer to know every day what's happening. And we should also, at the time, I did want to collect the data so we can do some research to truly understand what's really happening with women's body. And then along the way, after I founded Mira, I learned learned so many underserved needs about women's health, so many gaps in the women's health research. And many things we're seeing about women's health is totally wrong. For example, when I was starting Mira, I saw this perfect curve on the Wikipedia. I think it's still over there. If you look at it, if you just Google or Wikipedia, the luteinizing hormone, estrogen hormone, you will see there's a perfect curve and the perfect shades. And here's average, and here's like an average cycle day. You should have this ovulation or like a hormone surge, and you have this perfectly shade. So how many percentage of customer people should have this hormone range fall into this range. And when I started to have the Mira customer, and I realized everything's so different. Everything's so different, especially estrogen hormone. The normal range could be 10 times different. Someone could be 30 at the baseline. Someone could be 300 at the baseline. They're all called normal. So I think there's just a lot of myths along the road. So as the more I go, the longer I go down this path, the more I feel like I really need to do something. There's more to be discovered, and there's more myths to be really demystified.
And before you had the tools that you later invented with Mira, having this fantastic at-home monitor to see what your hormones are doing almost in real life, how did you do the research? I mean, were you just having conversations just to find out what was happening among maybe your peers, your colleagues at a previous job? Because we know that there's not much research still to the day done on women, especially on women's hormones.
Right. So for the demand, research about the demand, about the product feature, we pretty much interview some some consumer, and also did some doctor interview. And I think that consumer interview is really trivial if we look at from today. And I still remember the case where I interviewed a doctor, which is a friend, like some friend was trying to help me, so introduce the OBGYN doctor and ask her, this is something you will think that will be valuable. And she said, I will hate that product because that product will give consumer too much data and they will ask me more questions. So I'm going to waste my time. I was so surprised or shocked by that answer. I was like, maybe I'm really on the wrong trajectory. That was my first impression. But now I look at that, I feel like it's really interesting story, because you look at what people were still thinking about women's health. Like, she was a female OBGYN doctor, so the how much of lack of understanding or trust we have about consumer, or how little or conservatively we predict where the market and the consumer awareness will go in the future at that time. And then about the technical research, as I mentioned, I think mostly coming from Wikipedia, from some old paper, but pretty much the data were showing like a perfect. So everyone should have a ovulation on day 14, and you should have a cycle about day 28. My cycle is 35 days, and actually there was a period of time I was thinking maybe I was abnormal, but I didn't really ask anyone because I didn't feel like I have a person to go to ask questions like this. So and the hormone range is like a little fluctuation. Oh, there are some inter-woman intercycle fluctuation, but very tiny. So it's like a very clean cut. Basically, there's a clean profile, and you just go with that. So that's how Mira started, and we use those database to build our first algorithm. Obviously, the ovulation prediction wasn't the most accurate given that, but soon we learned that, and we start to adapt to machine learning, and it will become more accurate. But that's really, how little foundation we had when we built the product.
And you definitely spotted early on a huge gap in the needs of women when it comes to understanding better their own health. But I feel like nowadays, and we are so many of us, like we observe all of these gaps in many of the systems around us, not only healthcare, but more often the search stops there just by noticing the gap and maybe complaining to some of our friends and family about some of the unmet needs. But in your case, it was entirely different because you spotted a gap, you spotted an opportunity, and you went full on. I guess where I'm trying to get to with this question is really understand in a practical sense, what was your next step after you've identified a gap? Did you go and you spoke with someone about what you've just discovered? Or did you just go straight into, pitching it to some potential investors? How did that next step look for you?
Yeah, so I think I was kind of naive at that time too. I was just thinking, great, here's a market gap and here's an opportunity, so let's build a product for that. I didn't really go further than that. And to build a product, this idea about putting a hormone tracking to consumer home, it's a medical device. And for medical device, you have to raise money. So we did some prototype. It was really interesting. I live in a tiny apartment in the Bay Area at that time. So we have to do this prototyping. So we bought a 3D printer. And that thing, we put it in the living room. That was a one-bedroom apartment. It was so noisy. I don't know now, maybe 3D printer is faster, but used to be at that time just printing something very small for Mira, like a
What
shelf.
year was this?
That was the 2015 or 2016.
So that's when you planted the seeds for what is now Mira.
Yes,
2015.
Exactly. So that was the time. And then we were printing this, and that thing is so noisy. It took like a 48 hours just to print something like this size, like the Mira analyzer, the case of the Mira analyzer. That was where it started. And we showed around the investors. And actually, at that time, we're trying to say this is a digital health company because there was the trend at the time. Just like now, it's Bay Area really loves AI. At the time, loves digital health. Everything needs to be personalized, and we need to start tracking activity tracker at that time. So we started to do that. But I think this women's health angle, it wasn't called women's health; it's called fertility. That's another really interesting that I want to talk about. It's like at that time, everyone thinks about women's health equal to fertility. So basically, for women, your health is just the fertility. Outside of fertility, you don't need to worry about anything about your health. So fertility company was not welcome. I think for now, probably still very difficult to raise money. So all these investors like, oh, fertility. Yes, there's so many OPKs already on the market and they cannot sell well. It's so competitive. It's such a busy market. How can you really win? And then if we go a little bit deeper to say, well, this is not only an OPK, it's a hormone testing. Why do you need to test the hormone? Why do you need to get a quantitative number for your hormone? It went nowhere because that's too complicated. And
for everyone to understand, you mentioned OPK, that stands for Ovulation Predictor Kit, right?
Yes, correct. Those the test strips you can buy over the counter, and they will usually it's very thin that you pee on the stick, and it will show you 1 line versus 2 lines. You can view that by naked eyes. So that
was the immediate association between fertility and any other way of measuring the actual hormones.
Correct.
Right.
That's the only thing. So there's no one thinking about you should measure the hormone because they don't say any implication of the hormone. Why do we need to understand that? And why there's a need? There's no demand in healthcare, no demand in the direct to consumer. So fertility company too busy in the market, right? So then when there's a male investor, if we go a little bit deeper about why you need to test the hormone and what we found, like the hormone fluctuation was so big, it went nowhere. It's like they will ask like a very trivial question, or I look at their eyes, I know they don't understand it, or I know they even not interested in this. It's like a foreign language suddenly become another different language, or they will feel like, oh, my wife just got pregnant very easily. I don't believe anyone will need this device. So that was really the knowledge or like the belief of the capital market at that time.
Wow. When you were describing how that conversation with the male investors went, it just reminded me, I had a conversation with a friend of mine who also pitched a similar product to male investors, also in the space of women's health, having to do with, periods and all sorts of things that men cannot yet fully understand the importance of these things. And so she told me that she actually went to speak to the wives of the investors. And that was the conversation that moved the needle.
Yeah, I think for the understanding, I think the male investors just don't have a personal feeling about, why this needs to have bring some help in there. And I think both the male and the female investor at that time never knew technically, why do you need this? Just scientifically, we're not there. We didn't know why hormone is important, what hormone could do, and what we can bring a hormonal product out, and then how that can help with the customer. It's like it's not just a gender issue, it's gender issue plus lack of research, lack of the foundation.
Indeed, if we even think about when was the year when women were first introduced in clinical trials, right? It's only 1993.
Yeah.
We laugh about it now, but it says a lot of where we are in research in women's health?
I was just visiting some universities recently for collaboration, and the professor told me even today they mostly use the male mice to do experiments as an animal model because that's much easier. Because all the study, if you want to test something, for example, Alzheimer, and they use male because they don't have the hormone fluctuation. But they recently found if they introduce a hormone fluctuation like in female mice, and actually that affect the likelihood to some blood vessel could be blocked and the Alzheimer occurrence rate. So definitely that's clinically important. But I just want to say that even we were introduced in 1993 for a clinical study, but until today, many studies for other diseases are still using the male model only.
Yeah, it's the male model or postmenopausal women, right? Where we don't have fluctuations in hormones, so that it becomes a lot easier to run all this research. I mean, it gives a lot more control. We get that. However, how do then the results become relevant to the larger population when in reality we have half of the world's population being women? How do we make considerate choices and decisions when it comes to women's health when we don't have the exact data that fits their own profile? That's a question still to be hopefully fixed in the near future. And hopefully now with such devices like Mira, now you give the consumer, right? You empower the consumer with their own hormone data. They can just read their own hormone data, which is absolutely incredible. But now when I go back to the story, so you are now pitching this idea, looking for funding, because as you said, a medical device that requires some considerate funding. How was the experience of you actually getting the funding? How did you find the right crowd of investors? What was your strategy there? Did you look for something in particular, or did you do anything different to get the funding that you were looking for?
Yeah, so we mostly set this company as digital house. So that's what I mentioned. Digital house was okay at the time. We talk about this as the health platform. It's not only women's. It's obviously women's health didn't exist at that time, so it's not only fertility. We know people don't like fertility, so we said, well, this is gonna be a home testing lab. So you're gonna have all this hormone. Eventually, we can monitor. It's not only just for women's health, but we started from a fertility ovulation prediction, and then we got all this data, got the personalization, so we got some funding. It's not much. It's very, very little actually, given this is a medical device company. And I think the real important thing we did was that after we got the funding, we ran really fast. So of course, I think one thing is about the stress, like the pressure was really high. You're not like a company raised like a few $100 million, you probably have, more time to test or to, test different ideas, and you can just go like in a more reasonable pace. But for us, it's really like you either make it or it's just not gonna go. And then another thing is I think probably due to my personality, as I mentioned before, I kind of really knew how to, or have this mechanism about how to find a way to make things happen, or proactively seeking for a solution. So we found a way to scale up our sales really fast too. So the sales really growing, and when the company has a sales and has a product market fit, everything became easier.
But at the same time, the pressure is there, right? When you have investors, you're not only responsible for the company, but you also become responsible for the investments that have been made in the company.
Of course.
If I'm doing now the math right, wait a second. So you left the country around the age of 18. Now you should be somewhere in your mid-30s. Am I
40.
right?
I'm 40 this year.
Now you're congratulations. So you look very young though. So
Thank you.
I meant that during that time when you were just starting Mira, like in the first years of building Mira. That's when you were in your early mid-30s, somewhere around that age.
Yes,
right?
yes, like a 30, 32, 31. Yeah.
Because you were so close to the research in hormone health, and by that time, you already know so much about hormones. And you also now were faced with the reality that as women, we still have a biological clock, right? When it comes to conception and our plans to get pregnant and build a family. So I wonder, how did you juggle the two of them? And with that, I mean, on one hand, the ambition you as a founder, raising the investments and building a company, a startup like Mira. And then two, the vulnerability of you as a woman who also had plans in the future to conceive and build a family.
Yeah, I think the initial reaction was like every other woman, like my friends. That's why I started Mira. Delay that. So like my friends were also in this kind of profile. They had a lot of school and they were trying to build their career. So just delay that until the day you cannot really delay. So I started trying to conceive when I was like 35 years old. And there was a lot of struggle. And the biggest struggle is like I already knew this company is taking 120% of my time and energy. And now they're gonna be a kid. And then this kid, it's probably gonna take another 200% of my energy. So how am I gonna fit my time? So that was the biggest, doubt or like a question I couldn't get an answer about. And so obviously I was using Mira to test my hormone. So I identified ovulation. So the conceiving process wasn't too challenging. And however, pregnancy and the postpartum and the raising the child, taught me a lot of lessons too. I feel like I really have a personal feeling about how difficult it is to be a successful female person, like in a career. Female in a career, your family will demand that for you, and actually your friends, society will demand that for you too. Like I'm doing this CEO job, and all my friends know. But when I just had my kid, like when he was really young, and all these friends were like, how come you're not spending 8 hours with him every day? How come you send him to like a preschool so young? You should be just with him and stay home with him. They knew I'm very busy with a company. I cannot do this. But as a female in this society, everyone look at you to say, yeah, this is your role. This is supposed to be mom's role, the primary caregiver's role. So they just, they have these thoughts in there. So I think that's probably, I'm just imagining, right? So someone also could be another, like a female, very successful woman working in their career in another company or so on. With this kind of pressure, maybe many people will give up or will stop down or will slow down their career, so they cannot really move forward. And also, I feel like there's a lack of effective support from the from our resources. The resource I use from my family is my mom. So my mom came here to help, and my husband's parents help as well, but this is not feasible for everyone. And for really young child, like you can send them to daycare or like a preschool whatsoever, but still there's a lot of work needed. Not every family can afford like several nannies, like there's housework as well whatsoever. So it's very difficult to juggle the work between the balance between your work and the personal life to take care of your kid. And also there's always a feeling about like a guilty feeling I had. Even I think I was doing my best. I was, if I do a little bit more, I will burn myself, try to really do the best for my company and do the best for my child. But still, I just always feel like, everyone has a look on me to say, you're not doing enough.
Right. And I'm sure among the listeners to our conversation, we have some very ambitious women who might be on a similar journey like yours, or they have ambitions to maybe one day start their own business and at the same time raise a family, conceive a baby and nurture that baby and the child. Do you have a message for them and how to maybe overcome or deal with that feeling of guilt that can arise at times?
Yeah, I would say that my best suggestion would be really prepared and ask all the resources you could have upfront. So that's what I did. So before we decided to say we're gonna try for a baby, and I talked with my mom and talk with my husband's parents and talk with my husband's husband as well to say I still have to focus on this company, so I need help from you on XYZ. And here will be our schedule. Do you really agree? So if they did agree, and that was how things were working out. Or you could think about, I'm gonna have this budget to hire a nanny, or I'm gonna send him really, have this basically calm down the anxiety as a mom, and to send him to daycare or send him to preschool when he was really young. So you just have to, really plan well. Otherwise, it's like both are like a full-time job, more than full-time job. I think it's just gonna be very difficult to be sustainable.
So what I hear from you is really get clear on the terms of scheduling, dividing responsibilities, and
Yes,
be very firm when it comes to what has to be done
exactly.
Yeah.
That goes back
And
to what my grandpa taught me, right? So you have to schedule
I
about every day what you're gonna do. There you go.
I feel like that's a common thread in our conversation.
Yes.
What your dear grandpa taught you since early days. And I wonder now, becoming a mom, like how did this experience even enrich your realization that you've created something of such value for future consumers of Mira?
Yeah, I think that could definitely give me more compassion about my customers because most of them are in this age and also having kids. And I think that postpartum is really difficult. For me, you have to lose weight and you want to get back to shape, you want to get back to your energy, and there's a child crying there all the time. It's like a full-time job over there. And also this mood swing, like when your estrogen dropped, and you feel like so depressed, and as a work, you have to catch up back onto work. You feel like you're missing out things over there. So all this stress, I know a lot of times that's also associated with hormone, and the hormone fluctuation before your cycle come back, and that affect your moods too. So I feel like really women need some care. This is not about women's health as a research. It's more about women's health as a personal care, as some compassion, as some love. We need a little bit more love here. Seriously, we need a little bit care here. We need a little bit understanding. So this product is for that. We're still, every day we're re-innovating, trying to improve, make the product even better for our customer. I think that's where the idea and inspiration and also drive came from. That's definitely give me that feeling. And also, I feel like another thing is like if you have a child, you start to think about next generation. I never thought about this before. I was so focused on my career and building something. But I have a son, but I look at the his classmates, there's other young girls, and I always imagine if I were having a girl, what I would what I would teach her. And I feel like still there's many things I saw going to the girl's mind about okay, they focused, like a fairy tale and focus on some, I don't know. It's not saying those are bad, but not enough encouragement to live something very brief life. It's still a lot of things about, oh, girls should be soft and they should be protected. But those things are kind of discouraging them from pursuing what they want, to ask, to make the ask, and to make things happen, to really plan for that, make it happen, do it. You can do it, not wait for another prince to come to save you. That kind of feeling, I feel like it's really lacking. And also, I feel like might be a little bit far away, but when I was going to a lot of panel discussion, I feel like there's a lot of younger generation of the college students whatsoever. And they want to become something, they really want to do things. I can say that from their eyes, but they have never seen any role model, especially like a female, like in entrepreneurship, in women's house, even like an Asian female. They just don't say that. And they don't feel like this is relevant for me. It's like in this country, in this society, I just not going to make it happen. The chance is too small. I better just work on a stable job as Google. So they will go there, right? So they need to see more role models like this. So I feel like I really, my work, not only just creating Mira, but really trying to voice for this women's health awareness, to be a strong woman, to really make your dream, pursue your dream, overcome the challenge, become more meaningful.
Exactly. You are paving the way for the next generation to come. And again, I can resonate so much with what you're saying because this was also one of the reasons why I get to do the work that I do, not only being the host of the Mira podcast and having this conversation with inspiring women just like you, but also being a menstrual cycle coach. One part of me becoming that was that I want to pave the way for the next generation, for the girls that I hope to have a better upbringing when it comes to education, health education, and just menstrual cycle awareness, and having easier conversations around the topic of everything that concerns periods, bleed, hormones, pregnancy, postpartum, you name it. All of these words that we once considered taboo, and there are still so many people that are still considering it taboo. So we have to make a change. We have to make a difference there. So this year you're celebrating 10 years of Mira, right? You've started in 2015, and so it's been quite a journey. Could you help us paint a picture a little bit of how Mira started and how it has evolved over the years. So you mentioned ovulation being the first central point. Yeah, the central point in the very
Yes.
beginning. How did that evolve? Because now I heard you talking about more hormones, not just LH. Tell us a little bit more about the hormones that you're taking, that you can measure with Mira, and where are you taking Mira further on?
Yeah, so we started from an LH hormone, so that's mostly for ovulation, and the product is more about fertility. There's nothing wrong with that. And because that's easiest, right? So when you have a startup, you want to start with something relatively easy technically, so you can have a product going to market as soon as possible. But very soon we expanded that to have estrogen and the progesterone and the FSH. So estrogen is also to identify your fertile window. And the progesterone is going to surge after ovulation happens. So basically, that confirms ovulation. With people with PCOS, maybe they have irregular surges of your body has been trying multiple times to ovulate in a cycle. But you don't know if that really happened. So progesterone will be a good indicator, and the FSH will tell you some of your fertility level. So like if you're getting older, like 40 whatsoever, how close I'm to menopause. Does this really affect my fertility? So that will bring the answer in there. So now with these 4 hormones, it become a very comprehensive hormone panel. And the most important thing for Mira is like everything's quantitative. So just imagine you're doing blood drawing and in the lab and you got all this number back. And now you got number back every day on Mira test. And all 4 readings will come back within one test, within 60 minutes. So with that, there's a lot of things we could do. And in our app, and we do data analysis. Obviously, first we show the data to our consumer. So just like you can view that by your naked eyes, and you see your hormone trend, how they're changing, how do they compare to each other, and we give you analysis compared to the average of your population, your type of profile, and based on your goal. And also we do personalization about our content, about the activity guide, about analysis based on your hormone data as well. So it's really, going from a initially only testing for LH now become a hormone health testing overall in a cycle. And this hormone health testing is not only about fertility, it's about menopause. So last year we launched something about menopause testing and it's going really well. And also we have a lot of customers that are trying to manage their hormone, just manage your hormone health. So I feel like consumer awareness has really changed too. So they have PCOS, they have irregular cycle, hormone imbalances, endometriosis, and they just want to see how hormones are going with them. They they got this hormone profile and just really trying to do that. And then we start to give them more content in the app and to tell them actionable guides, basically, what they could do, what we could work, because you could take medicine, but maybe they're for fertility and for hormonal awareness, maybe their OB already told them what to do. But the real missing gap is like, how do you adjust your body? I always say like your body works as a whole thing. So if your hormones being really irregular, maybe you should adjust is really your lifestyle, like try to lose some weight or do more exercise or eat more balanced food or trying to release your stress. All these things, it's rarely been touched in a systematic and a scientific way. Again, because there was no research, no data about the women's health. So how do we know, right? So we just say everyone is pretty general. You just have to relieve stress and just have to sleep more. But what is really the personalized answer for that? What is being effective for users to do something and they will feel better? So that's where we're going to right now. We're just trying to bring more value to women and also really go into hormonal health. It's not only a test, it's not only fertility test. It's about the health overall based on your hormone.
And you pointed very well that when it comes to hormone health, lifestyle plays a crucial role. Yes, we might have as individuals some predispositions, but it's always the environment, it's always the lifestyle that pulls the trigger on those genes. And I know that you're someone who really understands the value of data. But for our listeners who might be still wondering why is data so important? Why would I want to know, all these data points about my hormones? Could you maybe help us understand in a few words, why is the data regarding hormones, and specifically these 4 hormones, why is it important for a woman to know what's happening inside her body?
First, your hormone changes every cycle, and it's always different. Sometimes it's higher, sometimes lower. And the second, you have so many hormones, like they're all going I used to say they're like a symphony. So someone needs to play a little bit higher pitch, someone needs to play a little bit lower pitch. So how they move matters, the timing matters, and their ratio with each other also matters too. And of course, today we don't have enough understanding about exactly where each one needs to be and to be optimized. I think the simple answer is it's a personalized one. So everyone has a different, maybe optimal profile at a given stage or a given goal for your health. And also outside of just the hormones affect almost everything in your life. So as a woman, for example, estrogen, some breast cancer is estrogen related, and also your skin, like a skin tone, collagen production, and the bone density, some migraine, insomnia, mood swing, hot flash, all these symptoms you're probably going to experience here and there, not only necessarily in menopause. And I think, for example, I got that when I was postpartum, like a hormone was dropping, and I even got the cysts growing in my breast, which was super scary because hormone changes. So all this for a woman, all these things will affect your life and affect how you feel. So that's really important, right? But we never researched that before. So what we can do, start to do is first to observe what's really in us, and you will find some pattern. Just think about, imagine you have activity tracker, it's tracking your sleep, right? So you're not the sleep expert, you're not professor researching sleep for like 20 years already, but you look at your sleep data, you will understand, you will find something interesting for sure. And you will say like, oh, maybe this thing affected my sleep quality, when I sleep better, or sleep such a longer time, or like a REM sleep got longer, I will feel XYZ. Hormone is the same thing.
And while building Mira, I'm sure that you came across some of those stories that, from users of Mira and the products that really made you feel very proud of your accomplishments. So I wonder, maybe you have a story that you can share with us, something that really made you say, yes, this is exactly why we are doing the work that we do here at Mira.
Yeah, exactly. So yes, we got many stories from our customers, and I think there's a recent one really impressive. It's like I got a letter, like a more like a card, like an invitation card of the baby shower from someone. That was mailed to our office address. So I was like, who is this, right? So I don't have any friends for having a baby shower. And actually, that lady is the user of the Mira. And she said that she was so hard to trying to conceive for many years. And they almost gone to IVF. And then she was using Mira. And then she realized some unique characteristics of her cycle. And then with that, she was able to conceive with her baby. And she really had a heartfelt appreciation to us, and then she wanted to invite us to her baby shower. And there was a register over there, like a beautiful card. Yeah, so I still save that card and I send it to our entire team, and I have it, at my home. I think that was like so amazing. I put it in my living room over there.
That's such a beautiful story. Another letter. I feel like this is becoming one of
Yes.
just another pattern in our conversation, another thread. That's really beautiful to see the impact that the product that you've created has on someone's life like that, and also having customers like that. You mentioned community being very important to you earlier in our conversation. And I feel like this is, again, another thread that is coming around community, because only if you manage to create a strong community around Mira and the users, someone would return that feeling back, right, by writing a handwritten letter. Really, really powerful. And if you were to describe in a few words the mission that you are on with Mira, what would be that mission?
I think our mission is to really give every woman a comprehensive understanding of their hormone. So as we mentioned, this has never done before. There's such a gap and so many confusions over there. I think that's a really ambitious mission, because we first need to collect all the data, and we need to analyze the data. We need to help them to interpret it. And to truly make this happen, we have to educate the customer or help the customer to understand. And also we have to convince the healthcare system. And the doctors need to buy into that. Doctors are already buying much better than before. But there's a lack of research. So doctors were not educated to say, oh, here's how I'm going to read all this hormone and what's it going to mean to my patients. And also the payers as well. For our payer system, fertility is not a problem. So there's no code for that. And which is the kind of unbelievable for that. So, what I mean is like to really make a hormonal health, like a health lab or like a something truly effective, like a solution to our customer, to every woman, to change how they manage how they manage their hormonal health. We need a comprehensive approach. We go from consumers, we help them to understand we should empower the healthcare system, empower the doctor, empower research first, and then doctor and the payer together. So that will truly change how women's health has been treated, have been dealt with today. So that's our dream.
That's a beautiful and a very strong mission. And you already came a long way while building Mira and all of the changes that the product already made in so many people's lives. And I wonder what's the plan in the next 5 to 10 years? Where do you see taking Mira?
Yeah, so we think we're taking Mira definitely to more homes and to helping more women to go deeper into their hormonal health. And also, as I mentioned, I think we're getting into more hormone tests as well. So it really should be a home lab. Really should be a home lab. So more hormones together, more data analysis, and more integration with the providers and the payers.
Do you have any insights on maybe some of the products that are in the pipeline? Anything that you'd like to disclose? If not, that's also fine if it's proprietary information. But I'm still curious to find out what are the next hormones, what are the next tools? What more tests can we do?
Sure. So we go with the hormones that make sense to go together with the women's health and common problems we have. So we already have these 4 hormones in for our cycle. And for example, HCG, right? So that's a hormone to track the pregnancy. And also cortisol is a hormone to measure our stress. Testosterone is for PCOS and also for male health, and male health played a huge role in there too. And also there's many more, such as your hydration level, such as your microbiome, and such as your vaginal pH, like a UTI whatsoever. So it's like it's a broad vision we're still working on to say what exactly will be the path, but I think we go with whatever needed the most by our customers.
Wow. So it's going to be a home lab. I cannot wait for that moment when you have so much access to your own body data, and hopefully we can all make more informed decisions about our health and well-being in the near future. I wonder how has it been for you over these past 10 years? How has it been to lead a company as a co-founder, as a female co-founder, and also being the CEO of the company?
Yeah, I think it was kind of like an unusual journey for me, and definitely a lot of learning, super exciting. But at the same time, along the way, I haven't seen too many role models. That was the problem for me. There were a very few female founder and working on women's health to a level, to a scale that's really impactful, that's significant, that's really changing people's life, many people's life. And for Asian women, there's even fewer. So it's like a mixed feeling. I feel like the thing I'm being most grateful is I've learned a lot, and learned a lot from others, from our customers. If we don't have our customers, I would never knew women's health has such a big gap. Just from a really a personal feeling. Like I feel this every day. I see this every day. I never knew that. I would just read it from the book. That's totally different. And also, I discover a lot about myself too, right? What I can really accomplish, and I have more confidence about myself. I have less imposter syndrome. Every woman has this too. It's been super.
That would be another conversation I would love to have. I think we should have another 1-hour conversation just on imposter syndrome and how does it manifest among us women, and how we can overcome it. I'm sure you have loads of learnings there.
Loads. Yes. All these founders, I went to those other events, I met other female founders. Doesn't matter where they came from, what the races are, and everyone told me I had this imposter syndrome. I totally feel that too. So, but anyway, in the past 10 years, I think that was definitely a wonderful journey for me. Very tough and very challenging. But I feel like I was living my life fully. I think that's the most important thing at the end of the day.
Looking back now, again, across the 10 years that you spent while building Mira so far, what is that one moment that you are very proud of? What are you the most proud of?
I think I'm the most proud of my team. I think we really built a fantastic team, and we have such a great culture. And when a founder started, and the first thing you do is like, I feel like, I have this idea. Let me find some people to work on that, right? So it's more like you have this idea, and then someone just gonna execute. But over the time, our team really becomes the owner. I think they're together with me are running the company. It's not like I run the company, I make the decision, they just make it happen. It's not only make it happen, they see direction and they see things that can be done even better, like at a level I couldn't say, because I'm a CEO, is a generalist, and our team, every department, there's a specialist. And also our teams, most of them feel like they have a very strong belonging, very strong like a meaning, like an impact, a meaning for the the other people, like the work really meaningful is impacting other people too. And we have a lot of women leaders in the company. So yeah, I look at them, I feel like I interact with them every day. So when you empower someone and you make some other people really happy, really excited, and they're growing a lot, and I feel so well. I feel even better than I do this by myself.
I feel like again the topic of community, like it's coming back again, and it sounds to me that you really are a success story because you managed to build a community around you that you haven't had when you first moved to the US, and now you're building it, and you've already been building it for the past 10 years with Mira, and now you're building it not only with your team, but also with the users of Mira and all the partnerships and the connections with the doctors and the entire healthcare system, all the networks. Beautiful work. Beautiful work.
Thank you.
Sylvia, this conversation has been truly inspiring, and I'm sure it's been inspiring for all our readers. Thank you so much for sharing your story, first of all, and also for this relentless drive that I feel in you, and your curiosity that really led you to create so much difference in the space of women's health. Not only that, but you're also empowering so many women across the globe by giving them data points, giving them information that they can use to make better decisions when it comes to their own health and well-being. So thank you so much for your time, for your courage, and again, your curiosity. Fantastic
Sounds
work.
good.
Thank you so much for our
Thank you so
conversation.
much too. Can I add one more thing?
Please tell me, what did you miss telling me? I would love to hear it from you.
Yeah, because I think our content team said something really well. So they were asking about what is maybe the best advice for other women, and the answer is like, don't ask for permission. I think that's so good. It's true, because as women, we talk about imposter syndrome, and also many times we just don't believe ourselves. I still have this problem, honestly. Sometimes I look at the company, look at our customer. We have more than 200,000 customers, 27 million hormone data. And I told people this is like the biggest hormone data bank in the world, which is true. And I look at this, I'm thinking about, is this really something I built, right? Maybe this is must be because some other reason. But just looking along the way, I think the most important thing is like every time I think about I want to do something, I go ahead and do it. I never ask other people permission. If I ask permission, can I really study engineering, not piano? I will be just playing piano. Can I? If I ask a question like, can I just go to industry to accumulate some work experience, but not pursuing my PhD, and then I will be probably gonna be in the university right now. So there's a lot of things. Or if I ask like, as an Asian immigrant, Asian female, can I really start a company in the US, or I better just go to Google to have a stable job? And I would be just at a Google, have a stable job right now. So, all these things, like when you have a doubt about yourself, you probably have hear noise, and you probably want to confirm with everyone around you to say, oh, am I really gonna be okay here? I feel like all these are not as important as the strong voice inside you. If you already hear that, it's your call. Just go ahead and do it. And think of the cost of not doing that, and the regret for the entire life. It's much higher cost than just go ahead and do it, even if you fail.
I took that very personal. Thank you. Really, really well said. We are gonna make sure that it's in the final clip.
Sure.
Now, if you don't mind, we have a few questions that we are going
Sure.
to ask you, and we would prefer if you could give us like a short answer to these. All right?
Okay.
What do you wish someone told you about your body at the age of 18?
Your cycle is not supposed to be regular, not supposed to be like a 28 days per cycle, and ovulation happen at day it's 14 days. So basically, personalization is the most important thing. Everyone's different.
Tell us a moment when sex ed didn't prepare you for the real life.
That's the time of trying to conceive. Sex ed told us you should avoid pregnancy. If you just don't avoid, you're gonna get pregnant tomorrow. And when you're really trying to get pregnant, and the people are joking about this, trying to conceive is the best way of birth control right now. So and you will realize it's not gonna happen. And you don't know why. You don't know what to do.
Yeah, I remember. That really resonates with me as well. The reality is entirely different. Yeah. All right, another question. What was your personal aha moment that shaped the work you're doing today?
To see how my product really helped with a customer. There were many challenges along the way of the startup. So every time I feel like it's like a really tough on me, and I look at the customer story, and they give me the power to continue.
What myth or stigma do you most wish you could erase for good?
Women's health is not a niche. Women's health is 50% of global population, and women's health is associated with many, many common conditions such as cardiovascular, Alzheimer, bone density, some common problems everyone has.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And there was one more request coming from your social team. Tell us about the fact that only 3% of the VC funds go to companies founded by women.
Only 3% of the fundings are going to female founders, which is unfair. Right?
Oh, absolutely. Is that still the case today? So it's still 3%. I wonder then how it used to be back in the days when you were raising the funds.
Oh, I think
like 10 years ago.
Yeah, what was the raising fund is definitely like that. I don't know what's the stats, but I can totally say that. Just you walk into the room, all these investor cities are male, and I went to some pitch competition, like a TechCrunch whatsoever. Look at the finalists; they're all like a male. And even today, actually, we recently just won the EY. EY, they had an award, like Entrepreneur of the Year. And we won that for the Bay Area. So they selected about 30 companies in the Bay Area from hundreds of applications. There are only 5 were women. And all the other 26 are male. Still today.
Wow. So that's what, less than, like there you have it, 25% of the total.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll make it up to the numbers. I mean, also having these conversations with you and giving the women role models. You mentioned it so many times in our conversation that you were lacking the role models. So I'm really hoping that these kind of conversations will just inspire and empower more women to take the journey of entrepreneurship and make the leap of faith and confront their fears and really make the change in the world that they dream that they can be part of.
Yeah, and really trust yourself.
Thank you so much, Sylvia.
Yeah, really trust yourself and don't ask for permission. You have a dream, go ahead, do it. Do it in a strategic way. Really explore. Just don't hold back.
Yeah, noted that. Appreciate your time. Thank you so much. I enjoyed the conversation so much.
Me too.
This was Mira Talks. Subscribe on YouTube or wherever you're listening to podcasts. And if this episode spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Tap the likes, hearts, and stars, but most importantly, hit share. Send it to a friend, drop it in a chat group, or post it to your stories. Because every share helps more women learn more about their bodies and live their lives free from the limits of shame. Check out our website, miracare.com, for tools, helpful articles, and free ebooks. And also, use the code ListenToMira for a special discount. Don't forget to follow us on social media for more.
See beyond the guesswork, track your hormones, and take control. Mira Ultra 4 is the most advanced at-home tracker, monitoring 4 key hormones in one test to reveal the full picture of your hormonal health, with 7 times more accuracy than other trackers. Irregular cycles, hormone imbalance, or struggling to conceive, Mira gives you answers to spark action. Feel sure, not stuck. Try Mira Ultra 4